Hello and welcome to our last office hours of 2022. My name is John Kowalski. I'm part of the marketing team here. On the line, we have Mike Peters, who is our regional sales manager up in Canada. We have Ray Roby, business line manager for automotive, and also Greg Schreider, business line manager for makers, refinish, and key account stuff. Today's format, we don't really have a presentation. We did this last year. It was a great hit. I call it our color and appearance, anything goes. So really, it's an open forum for you to ask questions to our color and appearance professionals. They can give you recommendations based on any challenges you may be seeing, what's going on in your specific facility. We're here to help you in any way we can. We are recording this, so immediately following, you'll receive an automated link of this discussion of wherever it may go. So to start off, questions. Please enter them in the chat box located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and we'll get to them in order. But really, think of this as your time. We'll carry on discussions and talk about the different elements of color and appearance, but also, it's really your time. So I can't emphasize that enough. So thank you, speakers, for joining me here. Thank you, all the attendees. I guess let's kick it off here. Mike Peters, what is, and I'm going to turn my camera off here so you don't need to see me here. Mike Peters, what are some of the key things that you see in, working in color and appearance? Your experience with customers, things that you see them doing that they should not, or recommendations and types of processes. What's on your mind, sir?
Yeah, thanks, John. As with, I guess, any QC instrument, the key thing is to make sure that the instruments that we use, can be related to, what we're seeing visually, and that's one of the biggest, I think, questions that I get is, how do I control my instrument, or at least configure my instrument so that it's giving us, data that correlates to what I see. Because if that doesn't happen, then we have a bit of a problem with this. So I get a lot of questions about color equations and which ones are the best to use, and really that depends. It changes from case to case, and that goes for both your 45-0 or your sphere type spectrophotometers, all the way through to multi-angle spectrophotometers.
Mm-hmm. And it probably depends too on what application you're using, if there's industry standards based on that. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Good.
And it does change from market to market, from customer to customer. It really, but it's important that when we're trying to discuss color, we need to be all speaking the same language, and
Yep.
And that's when communicating how you're measuring it is key.
Okay. I got one person not able to hear, so I'm typing him. But one option is to if you're not able to hear the webinar, log in via your phone. There's an 800 number in the audio settings. So moving on, Ray, what are you seeing in automotive and automotive light finishes, around color and appearance, things that folks should be aware of?
So there's a lot of new types of colors and pigments coming out, and it's important that people what they use a multi-angle instrument, that they make sure they're always doing things exactly the same way when they measure. If
Yeah.
not, because of sparkle and graininess, you can get different numbers, or even your L value can vary depending on how you hold the instrument on the vehicle. But it's not just for automotive, it's for anything. I mean, you want to be doing the things exactly the same as your suppliers or as your customer in order to make sure the data is valid for you to look at and compare to each other.
Yeah. So apples to apples, first
Apples
shift
to
to
apples.
second shift, third shift. If someone's doing something slightly different, you're getting an apples to oranges comparison, which isn't going to do you any good.
And that
Right.
doesn't only apply to color; it also applies to orange peel measurement or
Yeah.
anything else for that matter that you're doing, that you're measuring.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Thank you. Greg, what's on your mind, sir?
Well, I'd just expand on that thought that I think it really starts with the instrument geometry. So in color, we have multi-angle options, we have sphere and 45-0. And so it's, if you're trying to communicate within a supply chain or with a supplier or a customer, it's always good to make sure that everybody's using the same geometry of instrument. And then also the illuminate and observers are set up the same. So we see this frequently, that people say, "Oh, the numbers are different," and it's they've changed the setting in the software or something like that. And so it's kind of a little bit of back to basics. And I think there's always room for improvement on communication.
Yeah, I'll bet. I mean, I think, from my standpoint, I know, enough to be dangerous with this color stuff, being on the marketing side of things. But yeah, if you have, your different plants, different suppliers, all the way through your supply chain, if they're using different observers, different instruments, all of those things, you're going to get inconsistencies. So, really starting out, and I know you guys do this in the field, it's, starting with basics, all right, what instrumentation do you have? Who's gathering data? Are those instruments aligned? Is that, correct? Or am I just
No,
blowing
that's
blowing
perfect.
marketing smoke?
So one of the things that's really a benefit of using instruments that are capable of digital standards is
Yeah.
if you have that digital standard and you have it as a master, then it locks in all of those settings, and it's only compatible with something that is the same geometry and everything. So that's one way to ensure that in a supply chain.
And just in case people don't know what digital standards are, in Smart Chart, you can create digital standards and then you can email them to your suppliers or to whoever else is producing the parts. And then everyone's using the same exact equation, the same tolerancing on that equation, and the same illuminate and observer. So everything's preset. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, and Smart Chart is the software that comes with our color and appearance devices. It comes, 2 licenses come free with each of our devices.
Yep, that's good to know. Good to know. So I know a question here: Does BIC have plans to add light sources for LEDs to Smart Chart?
I can field that one. So there is a plan in Smart Chart. I believe the release is planned for the middle of the year next year, where we're adding the standardized LED illuminates. It's not a perfect situation because LEDs are still evolving, and but there's several of them that will give the ability to have your color numbers simulated under these different or these new LED illuminates or light sources, I should say. So that illuminate information will be available, and it'll be part of a standard software update.
Nice.
Right. So anyone with a BIC instrument can just go to our website and download the latest version of Smart Chart. And, so like Greg said, in mid-year, and those changes will automatically get updated to your current, to your computer. And there will be, along with that, any firmware updates to the instruments to add those to the firmware on each of the instruments as well.
Nice.
And if you need any help with respect to downloading the software or, updating the firmware, just feel free to reach out to any one of us here.
Yeah. Going back a step, smart chart. Can one of you explain kind of high level what that is? Because we may have some users on that don't own BIC instruments or don't know the value that smart chart, coming with those instruments bring.
Sure. I consider it a pretty powerful software package that comes with the devices for QA. It allows you to save all standards in the software and create tolerances. And it also allows you to retain record of all measurements taken. You get visual, a visual aid it'll tell you, with either a red light or green light, whether it passed or failed according to the tolerances that were set. You can create reports in the software to send it to customers, or send it to people that need to see it, or you can download it to an Excel spreadsheet. It's great to use, and there's different versions of Smart Chart depending on the industry that you're working in and the type of work that you're doing. And again, if you need help, getting it set up or with anything, that's certainly something that we can help you with.
I think Ray's pulling up and going to share her screen so we can show folks kind of what it looks like. And really, all of our instruments are part of Smart Chart. Is that correct, or most of them?
Yep, most of them are. That's right. And it some of our older instruments aren't, but any of our newer instruments that are coming out are part of it.
Okay, so you can, have all your data in one place. And I've seen those reports. It's pretty amazing how you can kind of slice and dice it in a million different ways, depending on who needs what. And it's really easy to customize those reports. We did, for the folks listening, if you are Smart Chart users, we do have a variety of tutorials on our YouTube channel. I'll put the link in the chat here so you can take a look. Also, I think it's in the automated marketing message that you'll receive with this recording.
So okay, Ray, I have it, but how do I share my screen? I can't remember in here.
Sure, on the left-hand side, I think it's the fourth icon down from the top, screen sharing.
So do I don't have it. Mike Peters is trying to help me, but
yeah, just click on the two. It's an icon that shows two screens.
Two monitors.
Yeah, two monitors. Just click on that and then choose whatever screen you want to share.
I think I can't.
No?
Okay. Here, let me try.
Yeah, I don't know. All I can see is the office hours page, and I don't want to sit here and take up a ton of time. So
it's okay.
Oh, I see. We only have a limited number of presenters. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why you're not able to, Ray. Sorry about that. Mike will pull this up here. But what are other, while Mike's pulling that up, what do you guys see as the key benefits of Smart Chart? Keeping all your data in one place, reporting. What are other, some of the other key benefits?
Well, the flexibility you have to have different views. So there's views that from an automotive standpoint that might be beneficial for a plant manager to look at. It's a high level overview. How are the colors running? And then you can drill down to a very detailed view for either harmony audits, or if you're doing some paint processing troubleshooting, you can get down to the details where you can see where the differences are around the vehicle. For example, you can look at verticals versus horizontals. You can look at critical match points where we can compare a fender and a fascia, for example. All kinds of different views, but it's super flexible. And
it's not just automotive, right? You know, any
no, you
part
can
you can put the schematic.
For anything that is manufactured, you can have a schematic and you can tell the software where your measurement points are.
Yeah.
And you can also add, so you have all of the color capabilities, gloss capabilities, all of the orange peel or appearance capabilities, and you can also add film build in there. So especially if you're doing DOEs in and around the robustness of a new color, or how does a certain new technology spray out on a particular given part. Those are all things that you can label and put in the software and run reports on.
Nice. How's that coming, Mike?
Yep, I'm almost there. I must admit that I have some. I there's a couple of screens that I can't share just for confidentiality reasons. So I brought it to something that I could share. So I'm almost there. Sorry.
No problem. If anyone out there too, what questions do you have? How can we help? In addition to Ray, Greg, and Mike on the phone, we have a couple more of our regional sales managers. They can help as well. So just log any questions you have in the chat box and we'll get right to them. So Smart Chart.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Is it big enough?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Good. So this is the home screen of Smart Chart, and it's a little bit busier than a lot of people would normally have, just because I have access to licenses for all of the different devices that we have. And there's both what we call Smart Lab, and there's something called Smart Process. And the difference is Smart Process incorporates organizers that allows operators to or at least companies to produce or to use schematics and add check zones, so that you're always measuring. If you've got parts that you're manufacturing where you're always measuring in exactly the same place, and it becomes beneficial to maybe organize the data according to either parts, part numbers, or areas on the parts, etc. That all can be done through Smart Process. Smart Lab is a little bit more open. It's less regimented in that respect. You can still do a lot of what you can do in Smart Process. It's just not organized in the same way. And if I open up, let's say, Smart Lab as an example, I've got something here where I can actually show you some of the information that you can save. But in this particular case, I just took a couple of I was doing a metamerism study in this particular case on various samples. So similar colors, but I was looking at them under different illuminants. So you can see that the software allows you to look at color under different illuminants to see if there's any changes to how the color or how your sample will appear when it's placed in, for instance, in daylight or in incandescent light or fluorescent light, because there are properties, and you can see that from the curves. When you get spectral curves where the curves cross a number of times, that's a good indication that there's quite possibly some form of metamerism. So that's one of the things that you can do. But just going back to maybe some of the when we talked about standards and just making sure that we record the data and we add tolerances. In this particular case, I was using Delta E 2000. My factors were left at 1. But you can see that it's pretty easy to make those changes, add color indices like whiteness, yellowness, etc. to it to measure those. Or in this particular case, I'm in with a Spectra 2 guide that has a built-in 60-degree gloss meter, so you can also add tolerances to your gloss. and then you also have the values of your master standard. In this particular case, I've created a master standard. And then what I'm doing is I'm measuring a sample against those master standards. And as you add more and more readings, they'll follow in this table. And then, like I said, you can export this to an Excel spreadsheet, or you can create reports within the software that allow you to create a PDF that can be either saved or emailed to those who need to see it.
This is great. I know there's a ton of information in here, and I mean, building reports and things like that, you can select, because you're not going to want to do a data dump of all this stuff to everyone you're reporting to, right?
No, that's correct. Yeah, no, it's a very powerful piece of software, and and we're here to help you. If you want to take full advantage of all of its capabilities, and we do make improvements over from time to time. So if you are a big customer already, and you have devices, I'd recommend that you go in from time to time just to see if there's been any updates to the software, just in case we haven't had a chance to contact you yet.
Nice. So, any Greg or Ray, any other points on Smart Chart that Mike didn't cover?
Mike, do you have any data in data analysis for like wave scan where you can do like a compare of the same color? No,
not immediately available. Yeah, because I have some, like I said, I have some customer related information here that I don't really want to share.
We got a question in here from Rodney. He asks, what are the best ways for trend charting by a booth, by color, by week or month?
it depends what you're trying to show.
Okay.
So if I want to see if both of my booths, say I have 2 booths, if they both run the same, I can compare that data and say, okay, at least both of my booths run the same. Whether or not they're to master, that's a different case. Then you would want to look at the data back to however the color equation is pass failing it. You can do a summary by color for like a whole month if you want to do like an executive report. And I mean, basically, my opinion is if there's something you're trying to do and you can't figure out how to do it, then contact one of us. It'll probably take us 5 minutes to explain to you, and then you will have the report you need.
Okay, good.
Because it's so customizable that it's hard to tell you everything you can do.
Rodney, let me unmute you on this end. You're able to now unmute yourself. Is there anything you want to elaborate on or anything specific you want to ask? You'll see a microphone. It should be towards the upper right-hand corner in like a red circle. If you click that, that should turn your microphone on. Give me a second here.
So just to comment on that while we're getting that, you know, there's main categories or parameters that we can sort on. And usually the first one is a model, and that could be a model of a car or a part or whatever. It's some type of way you categorize that. And then there's always color, and then there's paint line, usually next. And then there's parameter 4, which is typically open. And then when you have parameter 5, which could be a serial number or a VIN number or whatever. And you can, your basic sorting from those.
Okay.
Parameter number 5, everyone has to be careful though, because it's supposed to be a unique identifier.
Right.
Okay. And Rodney, you're on. I see you unmuted.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm not a super user, but I was just curious as far as what's the best way to where you can show like a charting trend to follow the process and look for, trends of how the color may be, staying within your limits as far as a quick way. So is there like a quick way to do it in the actual smart chart versus grabbing data and putting it into an Excel and then creating an actual bar graph or trend line?
Yes,
Absolutely.
you can do everything in Smart Chart.
Okay.
One thing that's like a quick thing you can do is if it's automotive and you have like check zones, you can in the main screen test report, you can click on a check zone and it shows you, I think, the last 30 points for that specific check zone. It's called history, and we can't show it right now, but it's a fast way to see if that check zone's trending the same over time. You can put multiple check zones on there. I don't think it's as easy to check. There's also travel plots that are nice.
Is anyone able to pull up some of those examples just to show
I
graphically?
can, but can you get
Oh,
me?
yeah. Greg,
So
let me make you an attendee here, and Ray, I'll make you a presenter. Sorry, Greg. Okay, there you go, Ray.
okay.
Okay, Greg, you can mute yourself when you need to.
Okay, so now I go to screen sharing.
Correct.
Yes.
You always do all this for us.
There we go.
Okay.
We can see it.
Can you see my
Yes.
smart chart now? Okay, so if I go into data analysis, and I've got a generic one that I can show you. So if I'm in test report and I click on this left fender and I go here to history, I get, well, this is not exciting because there's only one, but I would get the last 30 points if I had 30 points of data in there. So it's really fast, so you can see over time. I can pick a different color maybe. Let's see what this one does. It's just 1 point, but you get the idea. You can pull it up and you can see, and if you pick multiple check zones, you can also show them.
If you go to the
Yeah.
showing the pivot, if you show the pivot tables as well, Ray.
The pivot, you mean over here? So these are basically pivot tables. If I pick all this data, now it's every single color. So like I was saying, you could have like an executive summary report for like a month. This one happens to be din-mod equation, and it pass-failed on this delta SE. But you could put color, say you wanted it by booth, which would be parameter 3. And now there's, in this case, it's not a database from the US, it's from Mexico. So that's just what they call it. You could also, yeah?
I was going to say too, and Rodney, if you want to schedule something, a one-on-one with someone to show you and go through some of the stuff, don't hesitate to reach out to. You can hit reply to any of the marketing messages to someone in your region.
And then the tutorial link, that could be helpful too, right?
Yes, I did just put that link in the chat here. It's a YouTube link, and that has a whole, we've broken several things up into little snippets. So depending on what you're trying to do, more than likely it's there. Take a look, and or if you want to, talk to someone and personally, just reach out and we'll get to there.
Okay.
We did make some pretty significant improvements to the software over the last year and a half or so. So we're up to version 8.1.5, I believe, release 17326. you may want to check just to see what version you're running. And if you have something that's getting a little bit older, I highly recommend that you update to the latest version, because there's a lot of nice things that have been added over the last little while.
Okay.
Nice.
These are travel plots. So if I look here, this is delta L. So these are all the different check zones. And basically you want this pattern to be the same for everything, because that means you're traveling the same. I think this is an easy way to pick up if something's like really out far. Like here, obviously this is not traveling at all the same as the other parts on the vehicle. So that is something that's important.
Yeah.
And if you go into trend, if I pick just one color and then hit refresh, now if I pick all of these, say I want to see my left fender to my left fascia. Now, as long as I have this compare checked, it gives me two different colors, so I can see the fender versus the fascia.
Nice.
And then this overlaps them, so you can really see if your travel plot is good. You can do scatter plots too. It does it the same way. And you can also do just line charts, but I think the line charts are a little hard to read. I think the travel and the scatter plot are the best too, but it's totally personal preference.
Nice. Does that help, Rodney?
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. You're welcome. Another question here. Let's see. Can you show the interpretation and analysis of the sparkle and graininess values?
Yes, but I need a minute
Okay.
to get there.
All right. And
Greg or Mike, can you give an overview while I get the presentation and find the slide?
Greg?
Greg, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Or Mike, either one of you.
So sparkle and graininess.
Yeah.
Those are two separate measurements that are done with different illuminations. Sparkle values are meant to be how does a part or a sample look under direct lighting conditions. So like a sunny sky, if we're talking about automotive, or if you're talking about something in a lab, it would be with a direct illumination on the panel. And we do that at three different angles, 15, 45, and 75. And that is with metallics, is to help characterize how the flake is laying down in the painted surface. Graininess is done with a diffuse illumination. It's to simulate a diffuse environment, which would be like an office setting or a cloudy day, or a lot of your retail type of settings are diffuse illumination, and that only reports one number because it's one value with illumination from all different angles.
So if you look at this, you can see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like what Greg was saying, direct illumination, sunny skies, that's where you see sparkle, and cloudy skies or diffuse illumination is where you see the graininess. And they're independent, but you can use them together to figure out what's going on with your material. So basically for sparkle, it can tell you the type of flake. So pretend you had a Zerillic versus a regular mica. Your Zerillic sparkle level is going to be more intense. It can also give you the amount of area that's sparkling in the picture that we take, but you have to use it in conjunction with graininess to figure out if the size of the aluminum flakes is the same or different. So I could have a high graininess level and a low sparkle area because my flakes are just big. I think I said that right. Or I could have a small sparkle or a big sparkle area and lots of sparkles, and my graininess number would be small because the flake is so small. So you can use them in conjunction.
Good.
And this is just how the graininess works, like I talked about.
Great. Sihan, did that answer your question? I'll let them reply. The next question here is from Karen. This monthly profiling or annual calibration experience in ink factories. Let me unmute you, Karen. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself now, Karen. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a microphone in a red circle. If you just tap that, it should turn green and we can hear you. Just wondering if you can expand a little bit up on your question. Give her a minute here. Another question in here too. Are there different options to QC stains that are not opaque?
Yeah, I can feel that one.
Yeah. Great.
For stains, there's a couple of different things you can do. You can use what we call these birch veneer letdown panels, and they're an actual wood veneer that's fairly consistent from batch to batch. So you get equal absorption, and you draw it down or you wipe it down, however you would prepare your samples typically. And that gives you a consistent background, and it gives you that realistic wood grain look. You can also use Bico charts, and a lot of times people will use the Pentapack charts and do drawdowns on those. Since speed of drawdown is critical, a lot of times you'll use a Bico drive that's an automated drawdown machine, so you have really good consistency. And then the third option some people do is they actually use a liquid color instrument. And in that case, you have to let down the stain with a known dilutant, whatever that may be. Usually it's some type of toluene or something like that. And you want to have the ratio to let down, it would put you in the area of 50% for an L value or 50% transmission. So if you have a real high loaded stain, you're going to have to let it down quite a bit. But then whatever you find that ratio is, then you just follow that ratio from for the rest of the QC process.
Nice. I mean, we run into that quite a bit, don't we? More stains and opaque and
when they're not opaque, you just have to be really careful about the drawdown method and controlling speed and absorption rate.
Similar with the instrumentation, it's all about process and a repeatable and consistent process, whether it's drawdowns or measuring with, an instrument on the side of a component.
Right. Did we get any other clarification on that last question? If not, just repeat it.
Yeah, she wrote where is it? This monthly profiling or annual calibration experience in ink factories. And then she just wrote using a RK instrument.
RK.
Do you guys know that?
I don't know that. It's not coming to top of mind, but
Karen, if you can unmute yourself and expand on that. There should be a microphone in a little red circle. If you click on that, it'll turn green and then we can hear you to try and understand better what you're asking. Oh, it's an ink application equipment.
Is it a type of proofer?
Let's see what she writes. It is. Thank you, Karen.
So with a lot of different instrumentation, there's always a recommendation from the manufacturer for calibration and certification. You can follow that, or if you have a separate procedure, let's say the manufacturer says every year it should be recertified, but you have a ISO process that says it's every 24 months. As long as you're following your ISO procedure and doing it every 24 months, I think most people would agree that that's good common practice. From a profiling standpoint, if you're using some type of a profiling software that interprets color data, then that's a different story. We don't have any profiling software. We actually have a proprietary method that kind of builds that into each and every instrument, so you don't have to use profiling software. But if it's some other type of profile that you're talking about, we'd have to maybe take it offline and have a discussion.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, Karen, we can have someone contact you if you'd like to learn more about what you're going through, and we can get you some help there.
Because usually a profile is an offset.
They use X-Rite color matching equipment, IQC platform.
Yeah, so that's a way to track instrument performance and have built-in offsets so that you can have good laboratory to laboratory agreement. And like I said, we have that kind of built into our instruments already. And the other part of that is just having a good standardized practice of using a set of tiles or a set of BCRA tiles or a set of samples that don't change over time. And then you measure those either every month or every 15 days or whatever your practice is. And that goes into, usually there's a place in the software where you can set up that routine that you can track that repeatability from one test to the next.
Nice. Thanks, Greg. That helps. Let's see, another one. Peter asks, I heard you talking about big sparkle or small sparkle. Can BIC instruments measure that? What do you think? Can we measure sparkle, guys?
Absolutely.
I was waiting. I was like, quiet there.
I couldn't get off mute.
Nice. Yes, we just go ahead.
We'll be coming out with an update to our smart search, and it'll be that's a software package that you can look up your closest colors. We'll add the formulation capability next year, probably mid-year, where you'll be able to formulate with different size, effect pigments, and that includes micas, Xerelics, hue shifting pigments, everything.
Later, like Q3-ish, is that what it was? Roughly.
Roughly.
I mean, how product launches go. All right, cool. Next question here. It's about our microgloss. Hello, thanks for the webinar. I have a question about microgloss gloss meter. Gloss meter measures the reflected photons from the clear coat, but in chrome effects, gloss meter also measures the photons which are reflected from metallic pigments. How can we calibrate microgloss for chrome effect coats, or is there any way to eliminate this error? Want me to unmute him?
I'm not sure I'm going to answer that correctly, but if you have an old microgloss, so going back to the squared edges, those instruments, you have to have a separate calibration for anything above really 100 gloss units. The newer microglosses, which most people now have, they have an automatic range that will go all the way up to, was it 2,000 gloss units?
On the 20 degree, I believe it's 2,000.
Yeah, just on the 20.
Yeah, and it's 1,000 on the 60 degree.
So they should be fairly consistent on that kind of an application. If it's like a chrome clear coat over chrome or a highly polished metal.
Um, Bakir, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I apologize. Oh, thank you. Good. That answered your question then? Let's see. Okay, yes, very much. Good job, guys. All right, so we have 15 minutes left. Keep the questions coming in. Mike, are there things that you see in the field that, are kind of basic and foundational that people need to, make sure they're doing? I know we talked about, consistent and repeatable processes. Are there other kind of tips and tricks, to this whole color and appearance thing that you would recommend?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the questions that I get is just, making sure that the data relates to what they're seeing. And I was at a customer's facility where someone had accidentally had changed the delta E setting on their device. And yes, there are ways to lock that out so that you don't accidentally do that, but that wasn't done in this particular case. So, and in those cases, of course, the delta E's that you're going to get are different, potentially to those of your customer or your supplier. So that becomes a problem. So just making sure. I mean, a lot of the questions that we get just deal with, just making sure that everybody is speaking the same language, like Greg said. And it's not only the delta E equation, it's making sure that you're both on an illuminant, be it D65 or F11 or C or A, whatever it might be. Just make sure that you've got it set properly, and the observer angle as well, whether it be it 2 degree or 1 degree. Just make sure that all of that is consistent from one one device to the next.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, good stuff. Next question came in here. Can you explain the terms which are metallic effect and sparkle by using light phenomena? I know that the light is reflected from the aluminum flake surfaces called metallic effect. Can you explain this for sparkle? Thanks.
I think we need an unmute for this question.
Yeah. All right. Xian, I've just allowed you to unmute yourself. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, but you'll see a microphone in a red circle. If you just click that, it'll turn green and then we can hear you. Just looking for a little more information. A second here.
Ray, while we're waiting, maybe if you can explain again how the device measures the sparkle and graininess, and what the data would represent or signify.
So, okay, hold on one second.
Yeah, good. Getting the other presentation up.
Another was see.
All right, there we go.
Okay, so now that I jumped out of it, it went weird. Hang on one second. So here's what happens. We have LED illumination at the 15, the 45, and the 75, and then the camera here takes a picture of each of those angles. And then for for the diffuse illumination, we use this. So if we look at sparkle and graininess, these are the actual pictures that the instrument gets back. So this is two different mixes of two metallic flakes, and the pictures are very different. Like this one obviously has more sparkle than this one, and then the graininess is also affected. You can get these pictures out of the instrument, but you have to have it direct connected when you do the measurement. But what's interesting is there's two things for sparkle. There's sparkle area and sparkle intensity. And if your delta sparkle is out, then you really need to look at SA and SI values to figure out what's going on. So if I switch to Smartsure and we go all the way over. Oh, I already did it. Okay. So in this example, of course, these are all good, but this SI and this SA are what you really want to look at if your delta S is out of spec for any of the angles. And normally the 15 angle has to do with the actual material in the paint itself, and the 75 has to do with how it's applied. So the drier application, you could increase your sparkle area because technically you want everything to lay down on that 75 angle. So spraying dry is going to give you flake there, and then you don't really want flake to show up on that angle.
Nice.
And I have no idea if that answers.
So one other thing, Ray, if you go back to your PowerPoint presentation and go down, I believe 2 or 3 slides.
Here?
That one. Yep. Nope. One.
This one.
So the lightness level 0 to 100 is black to perfect white. When you add metallic pigment into any coating, you get these tiny mirrors, if you will, and they're going to reflect light, which will take you above 100%. So if you compared a metallic silver to a white, it's going to reflect more energy on the metallic panel than on the white. And so you can get values well above 100. And the things that control that type of brightness, if you will, slide 40, Ray. No, back to.
Oh, slide 40. I thought you said forward.
No. So the particle size of the flake itself, as you increase the coarseness, it becomes brighter and it will sparkle more, and you'll get more flop. So you get a bigger impact of that metallic effect. But conversely, you lose opacity. So a lot of times in a formula, they might have 2 different types of sizes or 2 different types of flake in there to achieve the best sparkle and brightness and good travel, and also achieve opacity.
And from how, when I go to customers and I teach them about this, I think the best thing to do is to have panels that you can actually look at and then look at the data and then make it, and then you can really understand like what we're saying, because these are examples and you can't see your own actual materials. And when you change stuff on your actual material, it makes way more sense, in my opinion, most of the time to people.
Yep. Yep. Good. Other questions? We have just a little bit of time left here. Note, as soon as we hang up, you'll receive an automated email message with the link to this discussion. Feel free to listen to it later or share it with colleagues. I guess any final thoughts from our presenters here on just color and appearance?
I think the last thing to tag on to what Mike was saying last was, controlling all the parameters is important, but also controlling the actual lighting environment and the importance of using light boosts that agree with one another really does help to make sure that any visual calls you're making at one location are the same calls that you would make at another location. Time and time again, people make a call at their facility, they go to their customer and they look at the same standard and part in another light booth and it looks different. That person, nothing happened to that person between, the travel time or anything. And it's just that the light booths can be very different, and it's something you have to pay attention to.
Yeah, a very important part of just the whole process, that visual color analysis.
And I have to say, we see this more and more in the industry. Like, people take, suppliers take parts into customers, like it doesn't even look like the same color as I looked at under my lights. And then if we actually go in and do
Yeah.
some measurements, we can figure out that they're not reading, or they're not putting out the same light values as the other booth, and that's why things look completely different. So it's a big deal.
Yeah. So it's just getting all your processes, consistent across the board throughout your supply chain, and making sure you're looking under the same lighting conditions with the same instrumentation, using the same procedures and processes. Nice. Mike, any last thoughts from you, sir?
Only that, same rules apply to orange peel measurement. If you're measuring with that, it's not only a color param, that you have, where you have to be, consistent. Using the orange peel measurement device in the same direction on a part all the time is critical as well. And communicating that kind of information is important.
And just one comment on that: if you are painting and baking vertically and painting and baking horizontally, you're gonna get differences in wave scan numbers on the vertical surfaces, especially if you go from like left to right, front, and then you go up and down. So just be aware, because you get a little bit of micro sag on those vertical baked panels, and it does change whatever number for appearance that you're using for your specification.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good to know. All right. Well, I want to, thank our presenters here for sharing your expertise and knowledge. I'd like to thank everyone who attended. Hope you learned something. Hope you got some questions answered. You see that's my email address on the screen. You can ping me if you have any questions, or if you think of something down the road, and I can route it to the right technical expert. We have regional sales managers in, throughout the country, Canada, and, even around the globe, and offering color, appearance, physical tests, dispersion equipment. So we'd love to help you in any way we can. So don't hesitate to reach out. We're currently planning next year's seminar series, which we'll do office hours, which is typically a shortened presentation, followed by kind of an open discussion like today was. And then we're also planning some 60-minute presentations on a variety of subjects. Stay tuned for that. Invitations will go out after the holidays, and we're trying to set up most of the year so you can register well in advance for any of these. But if anything comes up, don't hesitate to reach out to myself to hit reply on any of the automated marketing messages you see, or see us at bic-instruments.com. That's the main website, and we'll go from there. So thank you all, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.